So I want to kind of switch gears a little bit now that I've shown you a couple of pictures of my family, and talk to you about something I like to call snapshots or proofs of existence. And I want to talk to you about how I got to this place, because it wasn't just waking up one day and saying, you know, oh, I'm going to adopt kids. It was definitely a long process. And I also want to show you how I used my art and my biochemistry to really play off of each other and understand not only poverty and hunger, but also begin to understand who I was and how I could engage the world as a global citizen. So back in 2001, Clemson gave me the opportunity to travel to South Africa to study art importation. And I really got exposed to a lot of different things. And as an art student, my job on this trip was to document the experience and then do an art show. So I want to show you guys a couple of images from that experience. This is just an image from Cape Town, just to kind of show you the place that most of these images come from. I was in Southern Africa, so I was in South Africa, Zambia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe. This image, this is a little girl named Jemima, and then her caregiver in the background. We were visiting her family's estate. They are furniture makers in Zimbabwe. And for me, what I was trying to communicate in this image was some of the really hard realities I was seeing in Zimbabwe, of oppression and racism, both of whites and of blacks. For those of you who know anything about what's going on in Zimbabwe, the country is really in dire straits, and it went from being the breadbasket of Africa to being one of the poorest nations in Africa. And with this image, I was really trying to show something that was really hard for me to see. Growing up in the southeastern U.S., racism, has been a part of my experience in seeing how some people I interact with deal with people of different races. But I had never been to a place where it was a very open topic and very much widely discussed. And so with this image, I'm trying to show this white child in the foreground, and then in the background, I deliberately faded out the nanny's face, because when I was interacting with this family, I really got a sense that the nanny to them was, although they knew her name, was more of a disposable person than actually someone who cares for their child all of the time. This next image, this is of a child in a remote bush village in Zambia. And I was really trying to capture, although this is a village, it was about 17,000 people. They all lived in mud huts. They had no running water, no electricity, poor access to supplies and materials. And yet the children were joyful. And so in this image, I was really trying to capture there is joy in the lives of people that live in poverty, and it's not necessarily this doom and gloom all of the time, everybody's depressed state. They live life, they have very rich community, and I was really trying to capture some of that. This next image, this is of a girl that lived on a farm, also in Zimbabwe. And I was trying to show this family was what you would consider, I guess, the lower middle class. The first image of the child was of definitely the upper class. But the poverty just isn't just confined to black Africans. There are many white Africans that are also in poverty, and so I was really trying to capture images of both, and to really try to tell the story of this thing that I was being exposed to, because I really couldn't find, at moments I was very overwhelmed by the experience, and couldn't necessarily find the right words to say, but through images and through being able to express myself visually, I really tried to capture what it was that I was seeing. This next image, this is of a kiln room, but to me, this image really shows with the dark entryway and the really bright outside background. I was trying to show that there's this interior-exterior play in a lot of times in Africa, and there's a lot to the people that you meet and to the things that you see that you don't necessarily understand, and what you see on the surface isn't necessarily what's hiding beneath. And so I really wanted to play, kind of show an image. And I think what I'm trying to say is, like with the child in poverty, you might think, oh man, I'm going to feel sorry for this person and he needs my help. And I need to do all these things as someone coming from privilege. But really, there's another side, and that there's really rich community and there's joy in his life. And I think trying to really understand this back and forth, black and white play, and to really kind of look, as we've challenged you, really holistically at an issue or at a problem or at a solution. And that's what I was really trying to capture in this image. This next image, this is a potter. We studied, the art importer I was traveling with imported a lot of pottery to the U.S., and this is one of the potters, and I was really trying to show that a lot of, I guess, an aspect of work, and that there's great beauty in being able to make things with your hands. I think Mary Quaint is the one in the video that said, I think one of the greatest things you can do is to be making things. And I was really trying to show the beauty of the artistic abilities and spirit in Africa. This image is of a worker in a factory, a furniture factory. And I was just really trying to paint a picture of what a typical worker in a factory would look like. This next image is the actual interior of the factory. And one of the things that was really interesting to me when I met with the family that owned this factory was the effect of the AIDS pandemic on their business. In the culture surrounding this factory, that was in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, the culture is very much extended family is valued, and so if someone dies of AIDS, even if it's a third or fourth cousin, everyone will go to the funeral. And so the owners of the factory were really concerned, because every day they would have 20% of their workforce would be at a funeral. So they were really having to navigate, all of these people are dying, all of these people are not in work because they're at the funerals. How do we still make the volume of furniture that we need to make? And so that was really the first time I had been exposed to someone being affected firsthand by the AIDS pandemic. This final image is just of elephants. We went on a safari, and I feel like I would be remiss in showing you pictures of Africa without showing you some animals. So that said, this is how I've really tried to illustrate how I try to use both my biochemistry mindset of trying to understand the details and the nitty-gritty, and then my art of trying to see things with a simple picture or with a simple idea to describe what it is that I've experienced. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about hunger, and go to this quote that Graham Nash ended the presentation with. He says, "Life is not perfect, it never will be. You just have to make the best of it and open your heart to what the world can show you. And sometimes it's incredibly beautiful, and sometimes it's terrifying, and I'll take both. Thanks." To me, this quote really encapsulates a lot of what has been my experience in world travel, and trying to explore the globe and see the context that we live in. And back in 2008, I was privileged to travel to India, and I got to go to several cities. I was in Mumbai, a city called Surat, and another one called New Delhi. I started my trip in Mumbai and then went with a friend to a wedding in Surat, and then went to New Delhi, and the plan was to come back to Mumbai. I was traveling both with a friend and then also doing some business with Auburn. And this is a picture of the gates of India. I'm standing at the steps of a hotel called the Taj Hotel. It's one of the most famous hotels in India. And this image was taken about the week before Thanksgiving in 2008. And as I went through the trip, when I got to New Delhi, I experienced what's called Delhi belly, which if you can avoid that one, please try. It's very terrible. And so I got to the hotel and went to bed very, very early because I was exhausted and very sick. And when I woke up the next day, I turned on the television and I saw that Mumbai had been attacked by terrorists, or actually was continuing to be attacked by terrorists. This is an image. I did not take this image, but it's of the train station in Mumbai. The terrorists went to the train station and just literally opened fire and just sprayed with machine guns and AK-47s and grenades. I think they killed 52 people in this one terminal. And what was scary to me, there were several things that were scary, but the thing that was alarming to me is that I had left from this train station 1 week to the hour before the train station looked like this. So I was very, very close to being in that experience. And the image that I took of the Taj Hotel, the terrorists also attacked that hotel, and they actually came through the gates of India. This is the harbor, and they came through the gates and went into the door where I was standing when I took that picture. So it was very, very alarming to be close to something like this. And to also, I had just checked into one of the nicest hotels in New Delhi, and at the time, nobody knew how widespread these attacks were, if it was just confined to westernized hotels and very targeted places in Mumbai, or if they were going to come to New Delhi as well. So I was informed by the U.S. Embassy that I should not tell anyone I'm American and to get out of the country as soon as possible. So going through that experience was extremely terrifying for me, in the sense that I was very, very close to being in the violent place, but also it was the first time I had really experienced something of that magnitude, where hate was promulgated through the society, and where just the idea of senseless violence and senseless killings were something that was happening around me. The other thing to me that was really alarming is that the events that I was scheduled to go to for Auburn, the hotel I was at in New Delhi, they were scheduled there, and then the next day I was supposed to travel to Mumbai and go to an event at the Taj Hotel. So I felt very, very blessed and fortunate that I wasn't there during the violence, and that I was able to get out. But at the same time, I think as a person, it really kind of shook me up to be that close to something that scary. But when I got back from the trip, I really tried to begin to understand what would drive someone to do something like this. 10 terrorists in a course of 3 days killed, I want to say 166 people. And all of the terrorists were killed except for one. And in trying to process, okay, this just happened, I don't understand, why would somebody just walk into a place where there's thousands of people and just open fire with no rhyme or reason to what they were doing? And I came across this quote by the one terrorist that was captured. At the time in 2008, he was a 21-year-old Pakistani male, and he says he was doing his testimonies to police, and he was telling the story that his father sells what's called dawada. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's like a yogurt-based dish in Pakistan, and that he sells that in the market, and he can't get enough food, money to feed his family and to live, and that this boy was promised, if he went and did this terrible act, that his family would get 150 Pakistani dollars, and that would go to his family, whether or not he survived. And then he followed that statement with, if you give me regular meals and money, I will do the same for you that I did for them. And so for me, I began to see, when I was reading this and trying to understand why this event happened, and really reconcile, how I was very fortunate to not be in Mumbai at the time, because I had been there and I was scheduled to go back there, that my decisions as an American consumer can affect somebody's life like this. And I can either make decisions that will keep them in poverty, or I can make decisions that will help them to get out of poverty. And so that really drove home for me this conviction that both my vocation and my personal life choices should be geared towards being cognizant of how my decisions affect other people. Because as an American consumer, I can choose to buy products that are socially conscious and that are made in fair working conditions and people are treated and paid appropriately and paid a living wage, or I can not pay attention to those things and buy products that are to me the easiest or cheapest to buy. And so really trying to build into my psyche as a consumer and as a Westerner, how can I, through my daily decisions, really try to impact somebody's life so that they won't have to do something like what was done in Mumbai, so that they'll have a choice to have a vocation that allows them to feed their family. I also began to really think about my experiences in India, and this is a picture of me at one of the wedding ceremonies. And the picture beside me is a picture of a woman named Kaveta. She was a servant, like a housemaid of one of my friends, and I really got to know her quite well during this trip. And even though we had the barrier of language, she and I really developed almost a sisterhood type bond while we were there. And her story is that she grew up in Mumbai. She was born to a poor family, and when she was a young girl, her father abandoned the family, and through his abandonment, really confined her family to be in destitute poverty. And so she grew up eating out of the trash cans of tourists. So if a tourist came, they would throw away, as you and I probably do almost every day. We don't clear our plates, we just toss it. And so she would go around eating the food that was left over in the trash cans. And her family, even though when they were in this situation, were able to marry her off. I think she got married at the age of 12. And she had immediately started having children. She had birthed, when I met her, 7 children, 3 of whom were still alive. I think 2 of them died in childbirth, and then 2 of them died as toddlers. And the thing that really hit home to me is that we are the same age. My life circumstance had me born to my parents, and her life circumstance had her born to hers. And that was the difference that divide the happenstance of where we were born was why our lives were so different. And so that again really drove home this idea that I can, from my place of a privileged Westerner, make decisions that can help people like her be able to provide for their families and to live in a way that allows them to thrive instead of just survive. So going on from that, this is an image I took I think this is Paris. And what I was trying to communicate was that we're all on this path. We're all moving down a road. We're all living our lives. You guys are college students, so you're going to class, you're seeing your friends, you're doing your homework, you're reading your books, you're trying to learn and work towards your degree. And I was probably very much like you. And I've learned that even though I'm trying to speed down this highway at 1,000,000 miles an hour, it's important to notice the details and not let life just go by without thinking about how your life impacts other people. And for lack of a better term, sometimes it's important to stop and smell the roses, to really soak in the details of life and to begin to try to understand the intricacies of how we're all related and how I can make a difference, by even how I eat. If I eat, local produce, I'm helping the farmer in my town keep his small farm. If I, go to the farmer's market, I can spend my money here in my community so that the people that need money here can earn living wages. I can buy products like this necklace. This is a company that I think they're based in Oregon, but the woman who runs this company, she employs single moms in her community, and they're able to make this jewelry, which is they make silver and gold and fine jewelry. But the moms can work from home. She can give them the supplies, they can make the jewelry, and then they get paid as they make it. And so it really enables people that, you know, we've mentioned over and over and over again that women and children are the most vulnerable in an impoverished situation. But through even buying this necklace, I can help alleviate poverty in that part of the world. This shirt that I'm wearing, this shirt is made in South Africa, and the woman who owns the shop, she contracts with local seamstresses in the townships, and so she does the designs and brings them the materials, and then the women are paid for what they make and what they buy. Even the shoes that I'm wearing Tom's shoes, and the idea of Tom's is that every pair of shoe you buy, someone in the developing world gets a free pair of shoes. And so it's this idea that I can make personal choices and still live my life and the lifestyle that I've grown up in, but that those choices can make a difference. And to me, I think Henry David Thoreau is an inspiring author to me. But one of the quotes I'd like to end on by him is this idea that we can suck the marrow out of life. We can live full and rich and engaging lives, but those lives can also have impact. And so for me, and what I'm trying to communicate with this talk is the idea that you can have impact. No matter what your story is, no matter where you came from, no matter what your life experience is, I hope that you've been inspired in this course to see the world in a more global context, and to see that you can make choices both with your vocation, with your knowledge, with your passions, and that those things can all fit together, and they make a complete story, and that you can influence and make a difference in the lives of the hungry poor from where you are today. We're not advocating that everyone has to move to the developing world in order to make a difference. Certainly there are those of you who are watching this that will do that with your vocation, but I want you to see that it can be a daily decision. It can be impacting, deciding what you're going to eat this morning, or what you're going to buy at the store, what you're going to wear on your body. That decisions like that that can truly make a difference and can truly help those that are the hungry poor to have jobs and to earn living wages, and can help them to work their own way out of poverty. So with that, I'd like to conclude, and just I hope that you've been encouraged by this class, and I hope that you've also gotten some ideas, and Professor Coots and I are both anxious to hear what your ideas are, and how you can take what you've learned in this course and really go out into the world and really truly live and truly experience all that it has to offer.